So I'm going to start with a few rapid-fire questions. What that means is just ask you a question, give me an answer, no explanation allowed. All right? Favorite toy as a kid?
Lego.
Nice, good. Finished Lego models or mixed sets? Are you a free play guy?
Just a huge, huge box of mixed elements.
Very creative person. Okay, cool. All-time favorite artist?
Oh boy, that one's rough. I'm gonna go with you two. I'm an old person.
You too, nice. Lego movie or Lego Batman movie?
Both are great. The movie.
Movie, cool. Yeah. Agreed. Favorite app on your phone right now?
Businessy person, Outlook.
Outlook. Favorite app, really?
I lived through there.
Do you email your wife?
That has never happened.
Kind regards, Johnny. Okay, cool. You know how I know you're like a legit play guy? Because you're sticking with the Johnny nickname. Usually, kids, they stop being called themselves, they stop calling themselves Johnny at like the age of 12. And then they go to like John or Jonathan or something boring. But you stick with Johnny. That's a decision. Was there a back and forth, or you've just always been Johnny?
I've always been Johnny.
Yeah.
It would be weird. Yeah.
But you're Danish, is that correct?
I am, yes.
Is that like an anglicized version of a Danish name, or you're just?
So I don't know why my parents picked it. It's just, I'm stuck with it. I like it.
Yeah, nice. Tell me a little bit about the idea of playing. Like I know that playing is an activity, but it feels different from other activities. What makes playing different from doing anything else? Like if doing anything else that you enjoy. For example, if someone enjoys cooking, that's like an activity that they enjoy, but that's not playing. So what is playing to you?
So it is, I think the important bit is that it is an activity that is enjoyable to you. And I think that unlocks a lot of things. I think cooking can be enjoyable as well in a way that unlocks the flow experience, right? That time passes, you have fun, and you learn. And I think that's good.
What is a flow experience? Can you tell me a little bit about what that is?
Oh, so for me, it is the ability to sit down and do something and lose track of time and don't think about the emails in Outlook and just enjoy myself for the sake of doing that. And of course, as you do that, you pick up a lot of problem-solving skills, etc., especially with the Lego system in play. But I think humans as social beings, they learn through playing, and they learn through interacting with each other in play. And I think that's a very, very human thing.
Right. I mean, it's also about engaging your imagination. Earlier, I touched upon the play behavior of kids with autism. And one of the biggest issues is the engagement of imagination. So for example, a normally developing child is able to pretend that a banana is a phone. But then a child with autism struggles to make that leap in imagination, and which is why play behavior can become a little bit of a challenge, just because things tend to be a little bit more rigidly defined. And Lego is one of those, you mentioned the mixed sets, just a big box of pieces that you can use your imagination with. How is it that Lego is able to kind of straddle that line between you can either build what we tell you or you can go crazy, and both are equally valid? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I think the key thing that with the Lego system is play is exactly that it's a system. All the elements can connect to all the other elements in some way, and that makes it both an almost engineering toy, but also something that can really stretch, as you say, imagination. And I think that combinatory power is what makes it really good for that. Yeah.
At what age do you think we kind of stop playing, and why do we stop playing?
So, in my work every day with adult fan creators and the community, I would say my experience is that a lot of people never stop. Our boxes say 99 plus age on them for in the adult segment. And I think it's up to you not to lose that. And we see a lot of adult fans that do connect with the system in play, whether it's for flow experiences, for just listening to a podcast and just checking out and doing something with that, or if you would like to build something and be creative on your own. Some people collect, some go to events and meet others and socialize around their play. So it's really a system that allows people to express themselves how they want to. And I think it's up to people to tap into that. But I think we should never be too old to play, for sure.
But the way we play is a little bit different. Even with Lego, for me, now at the age of 32, the enjoyment is in the building of it. Whereas when I was younger, it was the building and then moving things around. Like, it's a plane, or it's a truck, you know. But I don't do that now. And I wonder if I'm missing out on something, or what play means to me has just sort of morphed into something else.
Yeah. You share that experience, I think, with a lot of people for whom the system transforms from being a vehicle for play in that sense and into a medium of creation, right? So and self-expression even, and I think that is a strength of the system, that it can do both, right? You can do role play as a kid, and you can transform into an artist really with the bricks.
I mean, you feel a little bit freer as a kid, don't you? Where you're not like right now. It's a little bit like therapeutic for me almost, because there's a beginning and an end. Whereas, you know, in my daily life, there's things that are just so continuous and so in flux, especially with my job, you know, because I work in marketing, and there's no such thing as a marketer's job being done, because there's always, you know, more numbers, more whatever. It feels like a project is never done, but this is one of those few things where, like, okay, fine, now I have that satisfaction. You know, is that a common thing that you hear?
For sure. I think a lot of people, I've been in a lot in the last couple of years in a lot of remote meetings, and naturally within the company, but also otherwise. I see a lot of people having sets in the background, and I think it's a really good, like medium for getting in that space where you can let go a little bit of your busy life, and be carefree. Yeah.
What was your earliest memory of Lego?
Of being with a bunch of kids and fighting over there were a few little round elements that we used kind of as a currency in our play, because they were golden elements, and you had to scrounge in the box and look for those, because then you could buy bigger wheels for your race cars. And that was the system that we had in
like
play.
Mining and trading at the age of what?
8, maybe.
Oh my God! Yeah, there's no doubt you're a businessman. That's so cool. So are you? So you mentioned that you're more of a freestyle, free play kind of guy. What's the most outlandish thing that you've built? When you're done, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that.
So my passion is for micro builds. That's a whole genre of building where you're trying to take something big and express it in very few elements, almost like it may be. Without being an expert on that, but bonsai, the miniaturization of things. So I have been working quite for maybe a lot of time on iconic figures of comic books from my childhood, and getting them compressed into like really small, like 6-8 element expressions where you can still see what it is.
How many pieces does that involve?
Sometimes 20. The art is to use fewer pieces, which incidentally, because I only have my apartment and I can't have too much stuff, so that's actually a useful way to engage with the hobby.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about Lego Ideas? Because this is a relatively new concept. Can you tell me a little bit about the conception of it, when you realized that this was worth doing, and how it found its success?
So it feels new. It's been around for a decade now. The origins were probably really, before it was Lego Ideas, which is globally available and where people can go to submit their ideas and start building an audience. And if they get to 10,000 supports from the community around them, we take that idea into consideration, and we produce 4 to 7 sets a year based on what the fans, what we crowdsource, you could say, from fans, and what the community around them support. And before then, we started a pilot in 2008 in Japan that was called Lego Kuso. And that was really initially, it was a small-scale prototype experiment to see if this could work, and it had very promising results. Before then, we had Lego Factory, which was a place where you could, a digital place where you could build a set, and you could upload that, and you could then get it sent to you in a box. And we learned that while a lot of people would really like great sets and having what they have in their brains in a set, it's really hard to do. But some people are very good at it, the creators that we work with in the community today. So we get 3,500 yearly ideas from people in there. Some people are very good at it, but it's rather hard. So that's where it morphed from being something that everybody might do to get the thing in a box to fewer people with a fairly solid skill level building these beautiful prototypes. And that was the origin, and that's what became Lego Ideas as it is today.
What's the filtration system? Because you mentioned that if you have 10,000 votes, like 10,000 people support your idea, what is then the filtration process? Because then I'm sure you get like sort of prank ideas or sort of jokey troll ideas. So how do you determine if something should legitimately be be considered, or just like, okay, let's move on to the next one. This one's stupid.
So we do have filtering up front. If we have some themes or topics that aren't very interesting to us, so we let people know beforehand, before they submit. The community is amazing. I would say we do not have, I should be careful saying that, knock on wood. We do not really have trolling as an activity. It's a very friendly, inclusive community focused on the creativity. That's very fortunate for us, I think. And so when people submit something, it is really the voice of the community and the communities beyond, because not only maybe roughly half of the support in Lego Ideas comes from fans that are already registered members of the community, and maybe half of it from people who might have seen your idea in a social media context, because the creator might have gone there and said, this is something I did.
And generated the support that way.
Exactly,
right.
Yes. And so it's a mix of both, and that's really the signal that we're looking for here, that a bunch of people come together and are passionate about this globe or this football table or whatever product it might be, and that's the signal that we're looking for, of course.
What was the first Lego Ideas idea that went into production under your leadership?
So this was before my time, but we had two sets. I do not recall which one came first, which is probably poor management on my style. But there was a space exploration vehicle and a deep sea exploration vehicle. So rather engineering at the start. And since then, we've explored many different directions. Architecture, expressions like the globe here, various very well-known TV series, the production sets from that, and so it's really for Lego Ideas about trying the first thing once, like the new idea that comes from a community and from creators who explore a range of passion points we would never ourselves necessarily think about or be able to take in and consider seriously. So this is really a wonderful way for us to try out new things, and that's the amazing thing with Lego Ideas, I think.
Well, you mentioned TV shows, like popular TV shows. So how do you decide which IPs to work with? Because it really spans generations a little bit. Like, recently you put out the Seinfeld set Lego thing. A few months ago, I got the Queer Eye set, and that's not a kids show or anything. That's like decidedly for people in their 20s, 30s, 40s. So how do you decide which IPs to work with and which to not work with?
I think that's a complicated mix of factors for sure, right? We would like for them to want to work with us. That's probably one of the first things. There needs to be a good fit with an audience that we think will really like this thing, and we tend to think in global terms. And I think that's probably where something might be really awesome, and I might really like it, but if that global appeal is the important.
If it's a little too niche.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Right. So tell me a little bit about how Lego moved from being like a toy manufacturer, essentially, to this global multimedia behemoth, because you have you do have the actual physical toys. You have TV shows, video games, movies, especially. So how did and you don't screw it up at any point. All of it is awesome. So how does that happen?
Well, I have to say first and foremost that I have some very, very awesome colleagues, right? That know how to navigate in these things. I think on the consumer side, there's a really strong generational effect with the Lego system in play that people experience it as kids themselves and then pass it on. But they also grow up. So in my mind, when I joined the company, I thought of Ninjago, the Lego product line, as something that is for kids. But it's been around for 15 years. So people are actually grown-ups now, right? And so that their audience is renewing itself, but people are also sticking with it. And I think that move into the family space and as something that people can be passionate about together, I think is a driving force.
It's a little bit of the Toy Story thing, you know? So sure, we have these inanimate objects. Why don't we animate them? But then that became successful. And then that leads us a couple of decades later to the Lego movie, which upon initial concept, I have to be honest, I thought that it was a stupid idea that was doomed to be really cringeworthy. I mean, raise your hand in the audience if you saw the Emoji Movie. Were you thrilled with it? No, right? So it seems like one of those gimmicky things like, hey, this is a thing that kids or young people like. We should make a movie out of it. But the Lego movie was incredible, like actually a good film. How many teams do you have at this one company where all of this just works so well?
I wouldn't even know. I think one of the things that I really like about the movies is the ability to speak to multiple audiences at the same time. I think that's amazing that there's a takeaway for the kids and one for the adults as well. I personally really enjoy the humor that is, it's quirky but not silly, and I think that's a tightrope to walk probably for creatives.
Line, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, for me, the turn in that movie from being, oh yeah, this is funny, this is enjoyable, was when it quickly switched into live action, and then you see that this is a world that the kid has created for himself because home life is not that much fun, and he's got a strained relationship with his father, and then you get back into it, and then all the characters fall into place. I was like, whoa, this is like therapy for me right now. This is incredible. So I think, really congratulations on the success of that, and also the continued success with the Lego Batman movie and all the other the other IPs. Now, about the video games, they're still so successful. Taking a toy and making it virtual, it seems like an odd leap to make it. It seems like you're losing the purity of the concept of what playing with Lego is. But it doesn't feel like you lost that. So how do you maintain that sort of purity?
I think again that because it is a system in play, it translates quite well. I think there's also possibly an overlap in interests where, well, I'm an engineer myself, so I can say this, where there's an engineering aspect to the toy that translates particularly well as a medium. We have with Lego Ideas asked the community to contribute level designs for digital games for Lego Tower on the mobile, and we have asked them to experiment with us with digital building in games using the Unity engine, an adapted version of that. And we have had a lot of success, a lot of people submitting thousands of game idea nuggets or prototypes that are amazing. And I think there's an interesting overlap there where the skill sets might match up well, and I think that lends to the creative aspect of that moving into the game world as well.
Nice. Since Lego is your job, how long have you been with the company?
Since 2016.
Okay, so just a few years.
Yeah.
How are you able to maintain your enjoyment of the product since it is your job? Like, I'll relate to this on a personal level. A few years ago, I was working at an advertising agency, and our biggest client was I can't say a brand name, but it's an arch themed fast food restaurant. And while I was working on the business, I couldn't enjoy the experience. I wouldn't even step foot inside one of these restaurants just because it felt like work. I was just noticing too many things: employee satisfaction, cleanliness, user experience, all of this crap that just got in the way of me actually just deciding to have a good time. So how do you sort of maintain that joy for Lego since it is your job?
I mean, you have an interesting job, I think. I like my job as well for the what I can bring to the table now to be successful. But also, I have to say that I build every week. So we have the product lying around the office, and I go to events. We have a lot to do with adult fan communities, and so a couple of weeks ago, I was at a local fan event with hundreds of people exhibiting their stuff. And there's really just a wonderful, wonderful energy. There's an exhibit opening. Last night was the grand opening, I think, for Art of the Brick here in Budapest, where with an exhibition, a lot of people engaging with that. And I think seeing that is energizing in the way that you can see all the different expressions of it. So I don't feel like it ever gets rote or
right,
tiring.
Because it's like reaffirming your value constantly, right? That's nice. Do you have any advice for anyone to maintain joy in their job? Because like sometimes it just sucks.
I'm sure there are probably many books written about that. As a marketing employee myself, I would say you should buy some Lego elements and sets and bring them to work and have some fun.
That's actually yeah. I mean I have a little like rubber coaster on my desk at work, which is it's imitating Lego, and then it's so tragic to say, but when you're in your 30s, you try and find all these little tricks to make it feel like you're still having fun, like you wear fun socks or you have like a little Lego coaster for your coffee, but it's just one of those little ways that just makes sure that you remember that like look you can take your job seriously, but you don't have to be a serious person, right? Does that sound right?
I agree.
To you?
Yeah.
What is it? What's the vibe like in the office? Can you take me on like a little verbal tour of Lego HQ?
So we have a wonderful campus in Billund where the family founded the business 90 years ago. We have our 90th anniversary this year. And the new campus is it's an amazing place. We're very open landscape and a lot of people in groups. And I think one of the things that I find interesting is you might walk in one morning and at the coffee bar, 4 very serious-looking people in shirts and their serious faces might be sitting around a table and discussing in earnest whether we would want lilac or pink for the color for this Lego Friends car. And it's just an interesting mix of things. And I think that's what you see in a lot of the company, that people are. It is serious play almost, right? That you're taking it very seriously, but it's also at the same time like really funny that it is a toy as well.
Yeah, I mean you have to laugh at the absurdity of that a little bit, right?
Sure.
So is it like a fun place to be, or is it very much like does it feel and seem like an office? Like
I think there are some natural things about offices. There are desks and screens and meeting rooms, but in all our meeting rooms there are also elements. So you can fidget with stuff or build something as you have a meeting, and I think that lends to probably a little bit of noise on Teams meetings, but also to being in connection with the product all the time. I feel it's quite lighthearted. There is a great culture of caring and being curious, and I get the sense that most people enjoy going to work and they enjoy working with each other. It's very nice, I must say.
I mean, also since you're in Denmark, that's one of the Nordic cultures have a very firm view on work-life balance. That it's important that you stay like a person and that you don't just live for your job. So while you're at work, you do what you're supposed to do, but you also have a good time. But then you're also supposed to go out there and live your life and be a person. And then that also makes your work a little bit better. Any tips for establishing and maintaining boundaries with work?
It's probably not my. I would say in my current job, I don't have to think about it much because it is rather ingrained in company culture. So I don't really have any great tips on that. I think it is important as a leader, and that I think that goes for everybody at every level in an organization, that you dare to be brave and speak up and try to make that space for your colleagues, none the least. And that's the spirit that we have in the office, and I'm very happy about that.
It's less and less common now, especially during COVID, where it was all remote working. Then the assumption was that everyone is always reachable, and it was really hard for a lot of people to establish those boundaries. Like, no, I'm done working now. I know that my phone is next to me, but do not text me now. But I guess that's less of an issue because it's so ingrained in the culture.
Personally, I found that it is very good to take a break, like move. I'm an avid computer gamer as well, and just moving away from my desk at home and do something else, cook dinner, build something maybe, and maybe then return, but to create that distance for sure. But I think it is probably one of the challenges of this century, right?
Yeah, it's really tough. Now, earlier you mentioned Lego Friends. And a few years ago, maybe a decade or so ago, the company kind of landed in some hot water about the overly gendered nature of some of the sets. Like, these were obviously marketed towards girls, these were obviously marketed towards boys. Can you tell me a little bit about how Lego addressed that issue and how it sort of opened up what is appropriate for whom?
So it isn't really my core area of expertise, I think, but maybe I would like to start there and to say that what I think is important is that the toy is for everybody, and I think one of the strengths is that it is about creativity, which is a universal force, and I think it is that is enabling us to be a product for everyone, and for really being focused on that and recognizing that people come in all stripes, but they can connect around creativity. And that, I think, is the strength of how we are positioned with the system in play and with the proposition.
Absolutely. I noticed in the last 10 years or so that really became less and less of an issue. And it's clear when it's segregated based on age group. Like, obviously, when they're toddlers, they can't like finesse around with like Technic, but the gender issue has become less pronounced. I mean, it's still there a little bit, but it's become less pronounced and less harsh than it was. And especially in the Lego movie, the protagonist was a guy, but then the secondary protagonist was a girl, and she was like the master crafter, and then she was like, okay, this is how we do it. And I think that really opened up the whole concept of blocks, which is so traditionally speaking for boys, and just really opened up that world. So I think Lego's done a nice job of realizing an issue, and then not necessarily tackling it, but just getting rid of it. So it's like, yeah, there's no need for this. So I think you did a good job with that. Now, going back to Lego ideas, what was the last idea that really lit you up? Like, holy shit, I can't believe we haven't done this before. Like, obviously we have to do this. Can you tell me about one of those ideas?
I have to say that happens to me all the time, because I mean, each time we do the reviews, we do 4 yearly reviews of what has reached 10,000 supports, 50 sets each review now, and for sure some of them, a car might be a different car, it might be something that you could imagine was built with the Lego elements for sure, and some of it just makes you think, this is how is this even possible engineering-wise? That's for me, from my passion, how is it possible to build something like that? And I would say that the foosball table, which is the latest product announced, is one of those amazing products where it's really, how can that happen? Like, how can that work? Oh, it's on screen now, yes.
It's on screen now. So this is the latest Lego idea which has been approved, which is being produced now. It's foosball table. We actually have the originator of this idea in the room with us. Donat Fehervari, would you stand up, give a wave to the audience? So this is really cool. I mean, this is taking something that people of all ages really have a lot of joy around, whether it's when they're kids or whether it's in a bar. This is something that really everyone can enjoy. So is this on shelves now? When is it?
So it will be on shelves. Oh, I should probably know that. So we're not too far out. I think a month or so out.
A month or so out. Yeah. Guys, I want you all to support Donat over here and pick this up as soon as it hits the shelves, because it's awesome and it's functional, which means that you can actually use it, enjoy it, and yeah, I mean, use Lego the way it was intended. Now, closing thoughts. Can you share career advice for creative people in the audience? Because being creative is sort of hard to define, and having a career is something that has to be a little bit definite. So can you share some words of wisdom about how to get a career started in something as creative as Lego is?
So I think we talk about 21st century skills, right? Problem solving, STEAM, the whole STEM plus arts, and I think creativity is rarely purely free, right? It needs to be directed towards something for it to be valuable, and I think that skill of I think design is probably one of the tools that will unlock human happiness in the 21st century, and designing the world around us. And I think it like anything, it is really about the work and enjoying the process of solving problems and keeping at it.
Yeah, keep at it, get yourself out there. I think those are wonderful, inspirational. What a great way to start the morning, right? Everyone give it up for my guest, Johnny Castrup.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming here.